Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're tuning in. My name is Jonathan Torres Herrera, and with me as always is my co-host, Demily Torres Herrera. Today, we have a very special show for you guys, something that we've been teasing here for a while. We have our first outside interview. She is a educator with a master's degree with over 10 years of experience. Please help me welcome the THN famous Mrs. A. Mrs. A,
Hi.
Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. We finally got you to come over. We've been working on this for a couple of weeks, I think a little bit more than that, telling you and asking you see if you were going to come over.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to have you on the show because I think there's so much that you have to say that so many people, from people in education to the parents, should hear. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. Before we start giving out the advice that we were just talking about, let's start with you, a little bit about you and a little bit about your background. You're originally from San Diego, right?
Yep.
You definitely went to school here for your elementary, according to this, but then you move on to Temecula. Let's start with your most, I guess, vivid memories of attending schools in San Diego.
I remember everything. I
Okay.
remember my kindergarten teacher. I remember my first grade, second grade, third. I remember all of elementary school, and I still talk to my second grade teacher.
Wow.
She was my second and third grade teacher, and I still communicate with her. I ask for advice, or
Yeah.
She inspired me to be a teacher. Actually, she was
Really?
really awesome. Yeah.
Which is my second question. So, what got you into education? I know you said you used to play. It was so cute. You said you used to have a chalkboard and pretend to be a teacher. Right?
For Christmas, I wanted a really large chalkboard. So to me, it was like this big. And I'd put my stuffed animals on the floor, and I'd teach my stuffed animals.
My God. Wow. That is so cute.
So weird. Or
That is so cute.
I'd hide inside the closet, because there's the big sliding door, and I'd scribble on the back of the closet because I figured my parents couldn't see, and I'd pretend it was a chalkboard, and I'd pretend to teach and scribble on the back of that.
Oh, that's so cute. Now, I did also read on here that, did I read it correctly? Was your mom in education?
She was a preschool teacher. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay. All right. Education has been, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like it's been around your whole life. I mean, as far as like having educators in your life, you know, obviously with playing, pretend to be a teacher, it almost sounds to me like maybe in your DNA. So why did you, why did you share that you very stubbornly went into getting a master's?
I don't know if I was going through a stage or what, but I was hesitant even when I was in school. I don't know. I don't know if it's, everyone kept encouraging me, you should go to school or to be a teacher. This is perfect. And then I found a great program, and I don't know. I just never saw myself teaching in a classroom, I guess. It was just really weird. The whole journey was really strange. I just remember going to school and thinking, I really need to do this. Like my gut was telling me, you need to do this. You need to finish it. You need to get your degree, and it's going to be okay. Just do it. But I don't know. Part of me was still hesitating. Like, I don't know. It was really strange.
Really?
Yeah.
So you finally take that big leap. You finally said, all right, I'm going to do it. You mentioned you took you 16 years to get, obviously, to get where you are with your master's. Throughout those 16 years, you walk me through it real quick. You have experience in being a tutor. You have experience in child development as far as helping students with is it the learning disabilities? Is that right? So were you able to do that all throughout your, as you were getting your degrees? Or did you wait until the very end and then jumped into?
Oh my gosh. I also worked in ABA, like with autism, and it was a bit after, it was a little sprinkled a little bit. So I finished my bachelor's, and then I went into my teaching credential. And after I got my master's, that's when I played around a little bit because I didn't enjoy my student teaching.
Really?
I did not.
Why
No.
is that? Why? Was it just? Is it tough?
I didn't see myself doing it.
Really?
And I no. At one point, oh gosh, I walked away.
Really?
I walked away after 1 month of being done getting my teaching credential. I walked out.
You're like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Really?
But there were a set of circumstances that happened.
Sure. Right. So what kind of drag? Well, I don't want to say drag you, but what kind of led you back into education? At what point did you say, all right, let's do this. Let's go back into.
I can't. And this is my mentality now. I think I've just matured. I can't let discouragement or things that I see that are broken or things that I don't like or policies that I don't agree with. I can't let all of these things stop me from doing what I feel that I need to do.
Sure, absolutely.
And so there was just like a maturing process for me, and I needed to experience things and maybe grow a little bit more, and then just taking the leap and saying, you know what, just finish it and it'll be okay. So
and now you are the famous Mrs. A. Okay, so you taught in a brick and mortar setting, right? I'm assuming that's gonna be the first experience you had as an educator, right?
Yes.
Just to be clear to our audience, it wasn't virtual. First, it was brick and mortar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're in the brick and mortar. I know you said you've taught from elementary and then a little bit of middle school. No, I always love to ask.
No.
I always like to ask teachers because I know, I mean, it's obvious. It has to be a different environment, right? Going from elementary, middle, and even high school.
Yeah.
So did you always know? That's something I didn't ask you before, and I intentionally didn't because I wanted for you to tell me, because everybody has this, it's almost like a beautiful reaction, because I've asked several teachers, like, and everybody has a different response. Like, oh, I knew high school was like the thing. Mm-hmm. Or I knew elementary was a thing. When you began your education, did you know like there is a grade level specifically, or that you wanted to go into?
It was a process for me, because what happens is I have, teacher mentors I look to, people I ask, I get advice. So when I finished my bachelor's, I thought, well, let me sub and let me see what I like. And for some reason, I just kept getting calls for middle school. So I would do middle school, and I immediately, I did not like it. No, it wasn't for me. I'm not cut out for it. Most of the kids are either the same height as me or taller. So I was like, I can't do this. And then all of my experience, it led me into early intervention, which those kids, like, it sounds cheesy, but they changed my life, like my outlook on life and how I teach. They taught me patience. They taught me that, like, no matter what where you are in life or what diagnosis you have or what people are calling you, you can do and be anything.
Of course.
Absolutely. So I learned a lot in those 8 years doing early intervention and working with families, and it eventually, I think after the 8 years, I was ready for something else, and that's when I went back and I thought, okay, I can do this. I can do this for another month, and got my credential.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So at any point, I'm just curious, at any point did you feel, I know you said middle school, no way. But even though everybody, obviously, who at one point or another, you're a kid, you're a young adolescent, it's the behavior starts maturing, from middle school to high school. I want to believe that kids in high school are more mature than middle school. Maybe. Right? Crossing my fingers here for you guys. I'm a believer. But did you ever think about, okay, maybe I'll skip middle school, but I'll go teach high school? Or was it also no?
No, I wouldn't even try high school. No.
Really?
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I always talk to my family about this. I think, well, maybe when I'm older, I don't know, I might change my mind later, but I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
You have a lot of, I will tell you, personally speaking, and hearing you talk and the few times that we've had conversations, you have a lot to offer and really good advice. A lot like my wife, who refuses to be on our show. But you guys are, I think, or you would, you and my wife at least fall in that category where you would probably be a great mentor for high school. So that's just my opinion, right? Yeah, I was just in high school, right? And I can tell you that there's a lot of teachers that that you just can't talk to, like that just, you at that age, you're looking for guidance more than ever.
Yeah.
And you do have a lot to say.
Yeah.
So just want to leave you with that.
I think it's because I can relate. Like, I was really immature. I had stuff going on, and I was confused about things when I was in high school. I didn't make the best choices. And so I think when people approach me with things, like, I don't judge them. I guess I just kind of...
You can relate.
I can relate. I get it.
Yeah. And I think that's important to give, especially at that age, with, it's, everything's important, right? I mean, it's hard to say, oh, one age is more important than the other, but in high school, because you are almost, you're almost an adult, you're getting ready to be out there in the world, right? So, just know that you have my full support. If you ever want to go to high school, I think you would be a great, like, a high school counselor. But going back to where you are now, you finally landed in kindergarten. Now, before we go into your virtual homeschool setting, how was your experience in working with brick and mortar?
So I'm just going to be totally honest, because I can't be afraid to share my experience, because I know I'm not alone, and I know other teachers share what I went through. So my first year teaching in brick and mortar, I literally had the credential just printed out. Like, I was just fresh, and I'm less than 2 weeks later, I'm hired.
Wow.
And yeah. And second grade, I started late because the teacher was placed in another classroom, and subs have been coming in and out of the second grade class. So they needed a teacher, and it was probably one of the most stressful experiences I've ever experienced in my life.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So you get your credential, and then you apply, you say, it's pretty much going to kind of throw it into the wolves.
Yeah.
Wow. So
I've
never been an educator myself, but I would imagine that schools or the education system, again, this is coming from someone that has never been a teacher, of course. You don't feel that there is the level of call it what do you call that when you get a job, the word's escaping me, or an orientation that's structured to kind of prepare you for that? Or is it more like, hey, watch this video, like a lot of people
Well, student teaching is supposed to, because in student teaching I was in a 5th grade classroom and in a kindergarten classroom, so you're in there with a master teacher, and you're working in there,
right?
And that's where the problems came in, because
so it wasn't a benefit to be kind of
for
mentored?
me it wasn't, and that's why I left, because I
Gotcha.
spoke out about it.
I
said specifically, why am I sitting here cutting paper for your next project when I have no idea how you're forming your reading groups or like how you're structuring your class?
You're more of a teacher's aide.
Yes. And so I specifically said that to my counselor. I said, I feel like I'm being treated like a teacher's aide.
Yeah.
Well, my fantastic counselor called the principal. Principal called me into her office, and she's like, I don't know who you think you are, but if you ever expect to get a job here in this district, you kind of like warning me, like, you need to be careful, girl. I don't know who you think, literally, like, I don't know who you. After that, I was like, dude, like, I'm out. Like, I'm done. Like, I can't, it's already stressful enough. I'm already like not getting paid to be here.
Yeah.
Like, no, like, yeah, it was an extremely hard, it was really difficult. Yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, you hear, I'm sorry. Yeah. I gotta catch myself, because you hear it all the time from between parents, but this is the first time I guess I'm hearing it really from like the horse's mouth, like they say, where you're that's horrible. Yeah. That's horrible to start a first job, especially when you're supposed to be the most excited. You're finally, you got your credential. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna change the world.
Totally. Oh my gosh, totally. That's and it's only because of my husband that I went back to get my credential.
Okay.
I got married, and life's changing, and then he turns to me one day at dinner. He's like, you know what? you need to go back and do this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, dude. I'm like, I don't see myself being I don't see it. I tried it. It's not going to work for me. He's like, you know what? I'm going to pay for it. And you're going to do it. Come on. You can do this. I'm like, I'm like, okay. And that's kind of what, and then my last month of student teaching, when I went back was really awesome.
Yeah.
So it was really great. Yeah.
Man, now we know who to thank for having this amazing Mrs. A here. Thank you, Mr. A. Thank you. Because otherwise, maybe some of this wouldn't have happened. No, it's great. So you go back into education. This time, the experience is different. I know you said you moved back to San Diego 2.5 years or so ago. You come over, you apply, you get the job. I will say, I'm not sure. I'm sure there's more to it, but from what you're telling me now, and then when I read on your bio, if it almost feels like this has to be meant to be because and I'm sure it doesn't happen like this for everybody, but it almost feels like you apply, boom, you get it. That's a hell of a luck. That's a luck, right? So, or either luck or just meant to be kind of thing. So you apply into this virtual program and you get hired, and they just place you in kindergarten.
I just got placed. Yeah. So you get interviewed, they record you, they ask you some like teaching questions that you send in, and then you have to do a live lesson on the platform we use, which is Blackboard Collaborate. And I just taught a second grade because I taught second grade. So I'm like, I'll just do a main idea lesson, second grade. And I did it. And then I got the call like the next day saying they were placing me in kindergarten.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So you get your kindergarten class. I know you said you also started a little late because you had just moved back, right? Or something, right? Okay. So you get your class, your kids are scattered. Let's start from this point, and then we're going to get deeper into it. So I know that schools do their best. People obviously live all over the country. They live all over their city, wherever they're at. So they at least in this program, you as a from the parent side, you enroll your kids, and it's not really I want to pick my teacher, or I want to pick So it just kind of like, I feel like the kids are just here bundled up, with the best teacher. But from your side, from an educator side, do you get any kind of pick? Do you get to kind of say, hey, I want to work with these kids? No. It just
not when I first came. No. Your first year, I think it's based on enrollment. So if they see that there's a lot of kids and they start hiring more teachers, and I think your first year you kind of just get like whatever late enrollment or comes in. But the second year, like I already knew what grade level I was teaching, and now they try to put all my kids that are local to me in my class.
Okay, so they do
so
try
now
to... Okay,
they do, yes. So yeah, and plus I'm super vocal about it too.
Sure.
I'm like, please, like get me some kids. Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
But not the first year. So the first year, going back to that, you apply, you get the job, here's your kindergarten class. Walk me a little bit through that. That was your first year, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So let's start there. Let's walk me through that. So how was that experience? Because I know, we just talked about you come from brick-and-mortar. So boom, first day.
Okay, so there's a lot to learn as a new teacher teaching virtually, and it didn't come very natural to me at first. So you have new systems you have to learn. There's several, but actually, and they try to prepare you as best as they can to teach your first class, and you just kind of have to jump in and do it. And you have a mentor. I had a fantastic mentor my first year. She's amazing. And I think that helped me a lot. And I don't know, there's so much to say and so much you have to think about when you're there virtually. I think it started to click for me once my lead or mentor, whatever her title was, she said, well, what would you do if you were in a brick and mortar and a student was doing A, B, or C? Like, what would you do? And that's, as soon as I thought like that, it started to come naturally to me. Okay. Like, oh, okay, well, I would try this, or I would do this strategy. And you try to implement as much as you can into the virtual setting that you would like in a brick and mortar. It's not the same, but there are some strategies that you can throw in there to make your lessons more engaging for the kids.
Okay. So let me ask you this, because it just popped into my head when you said, having a mentor helps. Do you feel that anything you learned while you were in school, right, building to your degrees, is there anything that they touch base on? I know we all aware that virtual school or homeschooling, or the virtual rather, is a newer concept. But while you were building towards getting your degrees, is there anything that you picked up about homeschooling or virtual school, or is it all based on brick and mortar standards?
No, there was nothing that I saw. All of it was like teaching pedagogy and strategies and assessments and just learning a lot of buzzwords and, differentiating instruction and, all these things. That's primarily what it was for me. And I remember when I taught in my first brick and mortar, I went out and bought a class management book to kind of help me with a lot of the things I was dealing with in the classroom.
You had to buy it?
Yes. I went out and bought it just because I was like, I'm so unprepared for this. I even called my second grade teacher, Mrs. H. I was telling her what was going on in this classroom and how I jumped in after this class not having a teacher.
Right.
Basically, it was a mess.
Yeah.
It was a mess. And I called her and I said, I have no clue how to deal with this.
Yeah.
And she
helped you
she
through
came
that.
through for me. Yeah. And she said, as soon as this year's over, you need to leave.
Wow.
You need to go to a different school because this is ridiculous. Yeah.
How do you think, and this is just on the side, I'm just curious, how do you, besides your talking about your bio, I'm just curious from your perspective, how do you think that happens? Like, you're an educator. How do you think from school to school to school, it gets so messy?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I can tell you how it got messy in my situation. How it gets messy everywhere else, I don't know.
Yeah.
I can answer some of those. I don't know. But for me, it was just, I don't know if it was just.
Is it more lack of support from all the way up or locally?
I think it's more locally. And I think this principal was really trying. She really tried her best to support me. And I was a new teacher, so I was clueless on certain things. But I think just it being her first year and the way the class was stacked and just, not having a consistent teacher, it was just, there were so many things happening that year that made it just really, really difficult and stressful.
How did you find
on accident? It was on accident. We moved, so I moved from Temecula, came down here over the summer, tried a different job in early intervention. It didn't work for me because I wasn't dealing with the kids. And then our condo flooded and all these different things that kind of delayed when I can look for work in school.
Yeah.
And then I just remember looking and coming across and it just happened. I was like, wow, this is interesting. I was like, what does it work for? How does that work?
So how do you do
that?
How did you ever, I'm curious, did you just thought about I guess what I'm trying to ask is how did that pop up, right? Because you're looking for a job, right? Is it because you were looking for home-based jobs?
No, just I felt like working with kids again, because what I did was I left, so I didn't get into a lot of the second grade brick and mortar thing, but after that year was over, I needed a break.
You walked away, right?
I just, my God, I never experienced so much stress in my life.
Right.
And I went back to early intervention, and I did that until it was time for us to move. And I decided to go into case management after that, thinking it's the natural next step to help kids. Oh, cool, I can be in charge of their services, being case management. Oh, and I hated that because I never got to see the kid. I never got to work with kids. It was all paperwork.
Yeah, okay.
So that's when I was like, okay, yeah, I need to be working with kids more directly. And then I came across.
Excuse me. So what happens is so now going back onto the timeline, you got your kindergarten class. That's the kindergarten class where we all met, right? Not that one.
No, it was not that one. That was the following year. So you guys were in my second year.
Okay.
Where I actually started from day one, like the beginning of the school year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So
and I'm in my third year now.
Now you're in your third year. Okay. So you're in your third year now. Now that you've kind of had your first year virtual, second and third year, I think it's fair for you to be able to be one of the probably few educators out there that can truly give an opinion on. And I really don't, I hate to put it this way because it's really not. Because then some people that are believers in brick and mortar and others are a believer in virtual, they feel like it's always a versus. I don't want to make it so much of a versus.
You're right.
Right? Because there's benefits. We talked about earlier, there are some kids that maybe would greatly benefit from homeschool if, versus brick and mortar, and then the opposite is true.
Right, exactly.
Right? So, but for lack of a better term, let's just say versus. Your opinion on the differences, the main differences between the brick and mortar, other than the obvious one of, kids are in their house, and virtual academy in the sense of curriculum. Do you think there's a big, huge difference?
In terms of curriculum? Okay, there's curriculum, and then there's how you apply the curriculum. See, with our school, we have the one curriculum, and that's it.
Okay.
Other schools, I don't know what other schools are using. I know that when I was in the brick and mortar, we were making up our own curriculum. Okay. We had a math curriculum that was so-so. The phonics curriculum was something that was found by the team. So it was kind of independently chosen by the teachers. We didn't have we were given a free reading curriculum. Nobody liked it, so we were creating our own things for the kids.
In brick and mortar? In
brick and mortar.
Are you able to do that here with virtual?
No, because the curriculum we use is K-12, but we adapt things all the time. I encourage parents to adapt things all the time. Give them ideas. If something's not working, we try other things. Right. But in general, for phonics, language arts, math, all that, it's a solid curriculum. So that's the one they use.
As an educator, do you feel that you should be able to modify the curriculum, or are you more comfortable when something's handed to you and say, here, just follow this?
I don't do that.
No.
I don't do that.
Okay. All right.
But I mean, the people that write the curriculum, they know what they're doing. I mean, I'm not a curriculum writer. Right. But I just don't see kids that way. Like, if something's not working, then we need to try something that will work. Right. I'm not going to shove it. Yeah, no, especially for a 5-year-old. If something's not working, then I always say adapt it. Add to it, take away from it, whatever is working. And as long as the child is meeting the standards, they're learning and growing, I think do what works.
So going into now the territory of work experience, since we've talked about kind of how you got here, is it easy for an educator as yourself to push things up the pipeline as far as like, hey, this is not working for the curriculum? Is that something that is easy? Or is it more difficult, and does it have to be in masses? Meaning many teachers have to agree for it to make its way up.
No, it's for me. I focus on what my families and what my kids need, and I don't ask for permission to say, Yeah, I mean, if I discuss things with the parent and we are in agreement that something works for their child, then that's what's going to happen. I can't agree more.
Yeah. And I can't agree more because, and the reason I ask is there's some times that, I'll come home and we'll sit at the dinner table. We'll talk about kind of like what you learned, right? It's like a usual thing. It's one of our routines. And there's some times that I hear things that, that either Johnny or Danelli or Emily are sharing to me. And I'm like, they're sharing like, oh, we learned this. And I'm thinking, I mean, maybe because I am an educator, I don't get it. But as a parent from the outside, I'm like, why are you learning this? Right? And it also sometimes feels so repetitive. It almost feels like, wait a minute, are you guys messing with me? Didn't you tell me this 2 months ago? Like, I think.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the trick, I think. As long as you're not breaking any school policies and you're, the child is still receiving, the content that they're supposed to be receiving, like in terms of standards or whatever the laws are. And I say you be as flexible as you can be to make it work.
Do you think that's an advantage that the homeschool system has over brick and mortar, or did you also encourage that when you were in brick and mortar? I mean, I guess it's hard to
For me personally, it's way easier for me to customize instruction for my students in this program.
Than
Way easier.
Okay, than traditional
Oh
settings.
yeah, and as long as I've got like open communication with the parent, because I need the parent as a team.
Yep.
Like we're a team.
Yep.
If they don't communicate with me, I have no clue. I mean, I'm not there.
Of course, yeah.
You
right.
know, if I have a solid relationship and I know what's going on, we could, yeah.
But
I've seen kids, I mean, grow and learn, and it's amazing. Yeah.
It is. No, it is. I
Yeah.
cannot agree more.
Yeah.
Which we're gonna head into the topic of parents and parental advice, but I have a couple more questions for as far as like the behind the scenes things. Because as a parent, I can definitely comment that I feel that, like I mentioned, some of the stuff is repetitive to me. Right. If there's a
I've
really
heard
good,
that.
yeah,
Mhm.
right. If there's a really good reason, I'm not aware of it, but it almost feels like a lot of it is really repetitive. It also feels outdated. Right. It feels like there's some stuff that even there's a movie the Incredibles movie that kind of dropped a joke on it where they're like, why is math taught differently now? That's not how I learned math. So there are some stuff that there's some stuff that has changed, hopefully for the betterment, but there are some stuff that I'm just like, why are you learning about, and take it from a guy that's like really a big fan of Greek mythology, but like Emily will tell me like 20 times about, we're again learning about Greek mythology or any of those, and I'm like, why? It feels outdated, it feels like there's nothing has been pushed forward since I went to school. I don't know, do you feel like that? Do you feel like there's some stuff that
So there's a lot of things I can say about that. So first of all, I know that the platform that we're using, which is our online school that's got the virtual courses and the content, is going to be completely updated and supposed to be, it looks pretty awesome. I don't know when they're doing it or what, but I'm super excited.
Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
Okay.
And I don't have, they ask for input on it. So we've given that. I don't know that much about it, but you kind of have to look at it like the online school is like just a big textbook. And it's got all the information in there, and it's got everything. Just like if I grab a history book and I'm standing in front of a class, like I know teachers that do this, but I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't just open the chapter and just read the chapter to you. Like I would take that content, figure out what it is that my kids need to know, and create an engaging educational experience for them. Whether that's maybe moving through the content a little differently if it's too repetitive for your child, or maybe adding to something, or maybe if something really interests them, maybe creating a project based on that. So there's a lot that you can do. What makes it difficult is not all parents have teaching credentials, and it doesn't come naturally to everybody.
Correct.
So I think that's where the teacher's supposed to come in and help guide the parents and help coach the parents and give them ideas and do live classes to kind of, give them information so that they're able to do that.
So this new curriculum you're saying they're gonna go ahead and release soon, is it more geared to also help the coach then, to also help?
I don't know. And I don't even know if it's like all new curriculum, but I know the platform looks totally different. It looks more modern. It's really cute, from what I saw. But as far as the changes, I don't know that much about it.
Is it for all grades or just elementary?
I think it's for all grades, but I'm not sure.
Because I know that the elementary, their platform is way different than the middle school platform. I don't know how the high school is, but they changed it.
Yeah, they already changed it
for middle school.
Yeah,
since last year.
Okay,
I don't know.
I guess that's a relief.
But as soon as I find out, I can
give us the insight.
I don't even know if I'm supposed to share that. I just
all right. Well,
I don't know.
we might bleep some of that out.
But it gets me excited. So
no, I mean it's supposed to, right? It's supposed
to.
It's supposed to. I mean, that's the whole deal, right?
Yeah.
How do we make education better?
Yeah.
It was my opinion. I shared with you earlier that, while everybody wants to be number one, we should be damn close as a country, right? To that in education. And we're not nowhere near close. Sure, there's a lot of different reasons why, and anybody can argue as to why we can't do it, and that's great and all, but the focus should be on how we can, right, or get pretty close to it. And it all starts in different programs like this one, right, where you update curriculums, you give teachers the right tools, which is something that I'm gonna share as a parent, and this is my opinion. Man, the Blackboard, like I shared this before. I consider myself to be a techie guy, and man, did I have a hard time with Blackboard. That's my opinion, right?
It's clunky.
Yeah, it was like, I got it on one computer. I did exact same steps on the next one. I'll be the first one to go on YouTube and Google things and go to different forums to try to get over a problem, and it was just like, for no reason. I literally had to uninstall it. I got it fixed finally on Demi's laptop. After like installing it and reinstalling it like 10 times. Same steps, by the way. And I'm sitting there frustrated because I'm like, what did I do wrong? What did I do right? I mean, what difference is it, right? And it's because it's clunky, right? So I'm a big believer in giving teachers and obviously the students the tools that they need. So I am a believer. I'm a big believer. Huge supporter of the homeschool, specifically the virtual homeschool side of things, but they have to have the right tools, right? Do you feel that right now that is happening, that you guys have the right tools to do that, or what tools would you change?
Okay, so here's the pattern I'm seeing. So, okay. What I notice about our school is we'll try things out, see how they work, and we'll like do like a soft introduction to it, and then I feel like then they start implementing the change the next year. Gotcha. So that's kind of the pattern I'm seeing. So I noticed some of the changes that I've seen this year. I think, oh, this is really good because this A, B, and C was happening last year, and I see they fixed it.
Gotcha.
But now this year I'm seeing a whole new set of problems.
Gotcha.
So
which, if it follows the same pattern, we fix.
I'm hoping yes.
The next year.
But the good news is they will reach out to teachers and do these pulse checks and will want your input.
Okay.
But you need to be, and now I'm learning how to give the input so that it's helpful. So as long as, if you're presenting a problem, then you need to be really clear about what the problem is and be real specific about how and why it needs to be fixed.
Gotcha.
So that's the approach I'm starting to take now. Yeah. And I
mean, and that's fair, right?
Yeah. Well, like, for example, like Blackboard, like,
oh, I feel the same.
But guess what? Like, we have free Zoom accounts. They got us. Yeah. Every teacher has a pro Zoom account.
Wow.
So I started messing around with it, and I will not go back to Blackboard. I won't.
Agree.
All I do is I use Zoom, and it's awesome, and the kids love it.
It is.
So, and I'm able to do all my classes in there.
Yeah.
I think had I gotten a no or I didn't have that, I would be really frustrated.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things like that that are really great.
Right. And I agree with what you said about there's issues that will come up this year and they'll fix next year. So there's a process to everything. Having worked in managerial positions and administrative positions myself, not in education but in other industries, I know how things have to be carried up the ladder. So this is not at least a draw, or I guess a punch down on the fact that things don't move fast. But I will say that things that don't move quick enough to be resolved can be discouraging to parents, right? Because I've said this before. It's scary. It is. Like, if you are going into homeschool as a parent, and we're going to talk about that here in a second, there's so many thoughts that race to your head, right? Like, so many hows, so many whens, and if there is something that frustrates you, right, outside of like maybe not seeing eye to eye with teachers or administrators, outside of that, if there's tools that are supposed to be working that are not, I think from a teacher standpoint or an educator standpoint or a parent, it almost, I'm out, right? It almost feels like that. So for that reason, I guess my point is, maybe in our setting, in our virtual homeschool setting, things should move a little faster, right? And I think, again, this is my opinion as a parent, right? There needs to be something or someone to give that feedback, which, hey, you're welcome, educators or administrators. This is what this is for. Now you're hearing us loud and clear to get things moving. You know
what's funny is I've been feeling that this year. I've been feeling like, oh God, like, why is everything moving so slow this year?
Yeah.
And I haven't felt like that before. This is the first year where I'm like,
come on.
Why are they giving me advice about using a timer in my classroom? Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, OMG, like Google what's going on. Like, it's been frustrating. So that's why I think, because, just the pattern I've seen, like I see them create new positions every year. So I don't know, maybe next year we'll have that gap filled with someone that's able to focus on new educational tech that will train teachers. Because I can tell you right now, there's a lot of, I work with amazing, dedicated, loving teachers. Like I can't even begin to tell you that they all want to use Zoom, but like they don't have the time to learn it.
And you mentioned you learned it on your own.
Yeah, I had to do it outside of work hours.
That's
I
crazy.
had to I made little goals for myself. Like, okay, today by 4 o'clock or at 5 o'clock, I'm going to learn how to set up my account.
Yeah.
Okay, check. Next week, I'm going to learn how to, and it was a whole process. And now that I had to just take the jump and just do it.
Yeah.
And each time I'm in there, I get a little bit better.
And that's kind of scary though, because you shared your daughters, you don't have any little kids is what I'm trying to say at home, right? So your daughter's older, obviously, unlike a mom or a mom who's a teacher who may have little kids, that may be more difficult.
It's very difficult.
Right.
And they shouldn't have to work outside of their work hours. They have lives, they have kids, they're, but it's different for me, and I have a super supportive husband. So like if I want to work, a little over, it's okay. But
come to an interview, that's okay.
Yeah, it's like whatever, go do it. I don't care.
No, you're right.
It's hard, yeah. So I've thought about. Lynn, like we have new teachers too this year that I'm sure it's really stressful. There's been a lot of changes. A lot of us don't have time to help them. Yeah. And I've thought about maybe setting up like an hour of Zoom, or a teacher can come in and I can try to help. But then I think, well, when? How am I going to do that?
Yeah, where?
So
when and how?
I don't know. It's one of those things I'm working on, and hopefully management sees that and starts to fill in those gaps to help. But I do feel it. I'm like, why is this so slow? Like, come on, let's get moving.
Going,
yeah.
No, I mean, kind of like we're saying, obviously otherwise it might set the wrong precedent for new coming parents to this and say, why should I stay? Screw it, I'm gone next year, right?
There's other programs. It's like we're not the only one.
Exactly. So on top of that, I also, now that you mentioned about, we're talking about rather that parents, or educators have to do some of the implementation outside of work hours. I remember, God, I guess it's the same thing everywhere. My teachers having to stay until 6-7 o'clock, just to finish grading papers or whatever it is, the educators do. And that's, it's kind of crazy for me to hear that it's happening still in this setting.
I know, that's what I thought too. Me too. I'm like, wow, is it just because it's the field of education where it's like, oh yeah, we have the right to, own your life.
Pretty much. Yeah.
We own you.
Yeah. So
it doesn't matter how or where you do it. Like, good luck.
You need 8 hours of sleep. The rest is ours.
Yeah. And I have 2 teachers, and sometimes they'll tell us every few weeks. They'll tell us, there's a lot of errors in these slides and in this PowerPoint because I was up until 12 o'clock working on this. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what they're doing with the rest of the time.
Yes.
It's not really my business, but it's like they're not really pumped and ready to go for work. So how are they going to teach well if they're up until 12 o'clock doing PowerPoint slides?
Yeah, I wouldn't be either.
And it's not just a PowerPoint. Like we have requirements as teachers. Like there needs to be a certain format. There needs to be certain every structured a certain way. It's not like, okay, I'm just going to slap this together and let's see if it works. Yeah. Like, no, like there's a certain, just like a brick and mortar teacher who has her evaluation, there's certain standards and certain expectations that are expected of you, and it's
crazy.
It's not any different online. If anything, it's even more. They'll come in and watch a recording, or they'll come into your class and say, okay, well, I can see that this student's mic's not on. Why? How do you know if this student is participating?
Right.
How do you know if, how do you know? It's every little thing.
Really?
Yeah.
I noticed that there are a lot of more of those people that come in classes more this year.
Oh, you can see them?
It's
Yes,
more
like-
often now. It's every 2 weeks, where
I
last
see
year
it
it was
now.
once a month. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, wait, but the students can see them.
Yeah.
Like you can.
You
Yeah,
can-
we
yeah.
have, just like in
Wow.
a brick and mortar, we have instructional coaches that come in and observe, and then we meet. It's like, okay, what was something that was successful? What's something you can work on? And so we have coaching sessions now every 2 weeks.
Here's I mean, the coaching sessions, excuse me, are, I mean, pretty standard in any field, right? A coaching session. Here's what I will tell you, that as a student, I remember, and now as a parent, I actually don't agree with the concept of having some random person, kind of like just oversee either a session, or back in the day when I was in school, just like stand in the door, arms crossed.
Writing things
Yeah.
down.
Just, yeah.
Oh,
Here-
it's the worst.
Here's my opinion, right? From my perspective, I used to, I mean, as a student, you're just kind of sitting there like,
You're like,
what the hell is
okay,
this
yeah.
weird ass dude? Okay, right. And they're just like watching. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I mean, and it's normal that a teacher feels uncomfortable, stutters.
Mm-hmm.
It's the worst way, in my opinion, to evaluate someone. I don't know who the hell came up with that concept.
Yeah.
You know, just like, we're going to stand here, just look at you.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's insane, right? And then
Yeah.
and grade you on that performance.
Yeah, in
you
the
know?
beginning, it's like that. Now, this year, I actually, at my school, I have to say it's been really positive for me.
Okay.
Like, I've been lucky. It doesn't feel like they're criticizing you. It feels
Okay.
more like they're helping. Like, they'll ask you, like, well, what do you think what was the gem? What's something great that happened? Or what's an opportunity that maybe was missed that you could, so it kind of is a little bit more like that. And not
Okay.
only that, but my kids, I mean, my students,
Right.
if some stranger pops in, like, they don't care.
Right.
Like, to them, they act however they want, and they're in
Right.
class and they're having fun. So yeah.
On a virtual thing, I guess you're
Yeah,
right. I mean,
they don't
I don't know how I don't know how it
care.
pops up, right? A name or whatever, how it pops up.
Yeah, it pops
so
up.
I get it. I get
Yeah.
from a virtual stand,
Yeah.
it's a bit more flexible.
Yeah.
But I just personally feel like, and you can never really criticize anyone on a performance when you're like just like watching them, because not everyone. Well, first of all, a lot of people are very, call it camera shy, right?
Mhm.
Or spotlight shy rather.
Mhm.
And if they feel there's a spotlight, they sometimes freeze. They'll stutter more. Not everybody feels comfortable being observed, right, under a microscope.
Mhm.
So from that standpoint, I always feel like that's the worst way to critique someone's work, because they didn't sign up to be on a spotlight like that, and that at that level, right? So I mean, in a virtual setting, I guess, to be fair, if it is helping, you as an educator, well, that's great and that's fantastic.
But
So
I've been lucky, because it can be really stressful.
are they talking to you on the side or sending you messages? As
No.
you're, no.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Okay. Well, is it just like literally just them watching? That's it. And then I'm assuming later on you get like feedback. Okay.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
yeah.
All right. No, I mean, listen, again, I'm not the teacher here, so if it is helping you, great.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean,
But I just remember having a different experience.
I think it's too much. Like, I think every other week or every 2 weeks is a bit much, and then having to meet on top of that, the system's not perfect, and
is it
I don't
is it
know.
supposed to be like a coach? Is it one
Yeah.
person all the time,
yes,
or is it random people?
it's the same person.
The same person
Yeah,
every
so
time. I
And
gotcha.
sometimes they don't even stay. I don't know how it is for your
Sometimes
class.
they don't stay the whole time.
the whole time. They'll just leave randomly.
Yeah.
Do those coaches? I'm just curious here at this point. Do they ever reach out to parents or teachers or students, or they don't? That's not their function.
I don't think so.
They don't do that.
No, I don't think so.
So they'll just reach out to you, give you your pointers,
Yes.
and then that's it. Say, okay, again, this is just my opinion. My brain's connecting all this. Shouldn't they be reaching out to parents though? Like, because I mean,
someone should be.
right? I mean,
Someone should be.
because let me tell you right now, whoever may or may not listen to this, you should be reaching out to us. I mean, I'll tell you great things, about certain teachers especially if you're the one, right? If I'm talking to Tom, if Tom or Mary, if you're a teacher critiquer, you should be talking to us, because if you really want to get the whole story, in my opinion, come talk to me. I mean, not me, by the way. Don't talk to me. talk to Monica. Don't call me. But
that's funny, because but the way a parent views a lesson and the way an administrator / educator views a lesson are two totally different.
Of course.
Totally. Like, my husband will observe a lesson, or he'll observe a recording or something, and to him it's like, oh, it's perfect. Yeah. Like, they're happy and you're engaged and this was so cool. And then, did you see that kid in the back who did that? Yeah. Like, to him it's like, wow, like, so cool. But to an educator, it's like, okay, let's get these standards out. Let's take a look on a scale of 1 to 4. What percentage of your class was engaged? How many responded? And did you list the standards? Oh, I think you forgot to list the standards. And here you listed this standard, but did you cover it? Did you cover it enough? Were you talking too much during this session? It's a whole
different.
It's a whole thing. Yeah. It's not just real simple. Like, wow, they look happy. This is cool. They're learning. You're done.
Yeah. No. See, that's more. That is very. I mean, I'm all for analytics. I probably thanks to a buddy of mine, I'm really big on data. So I'm all for numbers and zeros and ones. But man, like, there's more to education than just from a scale of 1 to 10, right? Especially when it comes from a single point of view opinion, right? So hopefully that is something to change maybe next year.
And it's just a snapshot. It's like you're not seeing everything.
Some classes are not going to have as much enrichment as other classes.
Right. You don't know, like, I know my families and my kids, most of them, like, what they're doing that day. Or I know, little Billy was off that day because he was sick or whatever. Like, there's so many factors that, like, and that's why if I ever get approached in a way that's overly critical or that makes me stressed or upset, like, I'm at the point now where, like, I'm not just gonna sit here and take it. Like, I'm sorry, I'll be professional, but at the same time, like, oh, I'm sorry, you've been here for 5 minutes. Like, no, sorry.
See,
you don't know.
I've said this before. The most important subject here is the student, but who is the most important person after that is a teacher. And in an environment where we have less and less teachers, or available teachers, this is some of the stuff that needs to go up as high as it can, so that it could be the schools can be better, right? Because it's not about an ego. It's not about I'm the boss, or I'm an admin, or just because. It's about how do we make this better? And again, I said it earlier, I'm a big proponent of that. So hopefully, wink. If anybody listening to this, listen to us, the parents, listen to the students, listen to the teachers, and get with the program. So let's move on to some, speaking about getting with the program, let's get with parents. That's my favorite subject, because here is where I can talk. I think I have some experience. So talking about parents, I will say that I agree with the concept that not obviously everything is for everyone, and that includes homeschool.
Oh, for sure.
Right? That includes homeschool. There are some kids, and we were talking about that when you asked me one of the previous shows. I think, personally speaking, I probably could have benefited more from a homeschool program like this, where it's a little a hybrid, sort of, kind of like what you said about your daughter, right? Where there was still that weekly outdoors engagement. Than just going to a brick and mortar, because I do feel, I mean, I hate to say this because it's like, oh, poor me, but I do feel like I'm one of the guys that, or kids rather, or whatever, the students that fell through the cracks, right? And it was just like, I don't want to say, oh, it's because all teachers are horrible. Of course not. That's not realistic. I think it's because of just like the setup that exists, the lack of, in some cases, training, right? And you would think that now it's better. We both know it's not. But now that we do have a program that is more popular like this, virtual school, still there are some students that while maybe they would benefit from this, of course, they're not going to benefit as much because of the parent or the coach, right? As they're called. So that's me speaking as a parent myself. What is your opinion?
Oh yeah, this type of program, school, whatever, it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It's not for every family. Well, I don't know. It could be, I don't know, maybe why they made the choice. I don't know. Maybe not everyone is I know it's devoted. As devoted. Maybe it's maybe they think it's easy, or maybe it doesn't come as naturally in the beginning, but maybe they develop and it gets better. But some people just, I don't know, maybe it's just not the time, or but it's not for everyone.
I like what you said though about that the reason. I think if you really want to be, if we really want to be honest, I think that's probably the biggest thing for anybody to look at when they're looking at homeschool is, what is your reason, right? Because sure, yes, you have to be devoted to the program and kind of make a commitment, right, to yourself first as a parent, because then obviously that's going to affect your child. Not just a commitment to the school saying, oh yeah, here's a piece of paper, it says I'll be in front of the computer, blah blah blah. It's a piece of paper, right? It's truly having that commitment to say, like I've said it before, like my wife, where she has pushed to build what she has for our kids, because that's a real setting, right? Or as close as you can to that. And if you're doing it for the wrong reason, as much as I am all for homeschool, it's you're setting yourself up and your child, right, for failure. Which on that note, I guess, what are some of the biggest failures in general that you have seen parents make when they're not being successful and they're like, why is this not working? What is your biggest take or failures, observations?
Like the things that keep me up at night, like literally keep me up at night, are when I hear or say it's the middle of kinder, or we're towards third semester or third quarter, and I'm trying to help the student because they don't even have a grasp of their alphabet, when by this point they really should. And I'm emailing, I'm calling, setting up one-on-one sessions, like cutting out time so I can sit and work with this student and their family, and I'm doing everything I can, and like the parent is like, well, he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to. And
when you're working and you're writing all year, and you see the students, like you see a student's progress, right? So you have a student in your class, and you're seeing their progress, and you're looking at all of their test scores. Do you see those and tell yourself that maybe that student would do better in
yes,
in public school?
And I've told it, like this specific example I just gave you, the words came out, and it's the first time I said it, but I was so like, are you kidding me? Like, this is not fair to your child. Like, what are you doing? So I said, you know what? This may not be the best thing for you. Like, in a lot of it, I've seen a lot of parenting issues. It's like, well, if he doesn't want to do it, oh my God.
Listen, you're kind of hitting all the right points with me, because
like I gotta calm down, because in like I lose sleep writing. I love teaching writing to kids. I love seeing them develop from scribbling to coloring to writing It's like so amazing. Right. And I remember last year I did everything I possibly could just to get a sample from this family, something. Right. And it's like, well, he doesn't really want to do it.
If
my God,
little Peter doesn't want to, what do you want me to do about it?
No, I wake up at night. At night. That's when it's a problem. That's when it's like, okay, like I got to learn to let go at some point.
You're passionate about your career.
Hard. So. It's hard. Yeah. But those are the situations where I'm like, what else are you not doing? Like, what are you gonna do, next year? Or
I'm curious, and did it all come down to being your fault? Did it ever come down to that? Like, well, I get it, Mrs. A, but
the parent I've never received a blame from a parent, but really, like progress and these test scores, it's really up to teachers to make sure that the kids are like meeting that level of growth. And like, it's like, what do you do when?
Now, do you have a way to pass that feedback up, by the way, like up the ranks when you see something like this that you're like, put the brakes on? Do you have a way of easily passing that on to, in school sometimes, like if a kid came in and he was not in the right, go to the counselor kind of thing.
We have like a non-compliancy process for things, but for something like that where like I'm doing everything I can, even like creating a specific worksheets just to get some. In this case, it was there's only when it's like that, it's usually only like a couple of people. It's not like a whole chunk of the class.
It's an extreme case.
It's an extreme case. It's like, come on, dude, come on. You can write, you can draw a picture and label it. Come on, we need something. I mean, and if it's just this one subject and they're struggling, you do what you can to help them, but really at the end of the day, they just get a 0 on their report card. So it just depends, but that's what you get. Like,
have you ever had to? I'm just curious. Have you ever had to? I don't know if kids this young get failed, or have you ever had to hold back?
Fail a kindergarten? No.
Does that happen? By the way, I'm sorry. I don't know.
I guess
is that possible?
Can. We don't hold.
It doesn't happen in. I don't think it happens in our school.
No, I don't think so. No.
How does that happen? Like hypothetically, if Emily was the opposite of Emily, how would she get held back?
I don't know.
I don't think they hold back.
They can. It wouldn't be entirely up to the teacher. Like administrators would have to decide that. I don't know.
That's
in kindergarten's not what it used to be. Like, I don't know if people think like they just finger paint and, trace letters. It's not. No. It's really pre-first grade is what it is. So it can get pretty intense.
Yeah. No.
For some kids, yeah.
Which is what it should be, right? I think at least I'm a big believer that it's healthy at a healthy level to push young minds, right? Because I saw one video a long time ago of like the first 5 or something, and it has always for some reason shocked me. I was like, man. So I actually agree. It is not what it used to be, and it definitely should be pushed.
And we're not expecting perfection. We're not, we take into account like a child's development and progress and meeting the child where they're at. But when you're not even trying, that's when it's a problem. If you're turning in something that's like, oh, wow, but it's something, okay, we have something to start with. Let's see if we can get you, growing from there. And let's do that.
Baby steps.
Yeah,
some people
but
take
not
larger
like
ones.
He doesn't want to do it. So, I know your child's watching TV right now. Like, what is wrong with you? Like that's bad.
Well, you know what it is. And to anybody watching this that's thinking about homeschool, take it from me. It's and for someone that's not really directly doing it, just seeing you as an educator, seeing my kids, seeing Monica, and seeing other parents as well, it is not, and it should never be, because this happens, and I mentioned this to you earlier, where it's kind of like, oh, well, here's my kid. See ya, call me when he's done, kind of thing. It's not, and it happens in traditional school, right? I'm not saying against the parents that have to work 2 jobs. We get it. For those parents, we get it, right? But I know of a parent, which I applaud, that has a nighttime job and still does her job, right? And that's what this is about, right? And we know that in a lot of brick and mortar, that I was telling you earlier, the 626 program, there are some parents that's just like, oh, well, there's my kid. Is 6 p.m. the latest? Well, like, 6 p.m. is kind of the late. It's actually, it's not like you have to meet the 6 p.m. deadline. You could come pick them up earlier. Again, parents are like, hey, I work 2 jobs. This doesn't apply to you. The shoe does not fit. Please don't worry about it. But when it comes to homeschooling, that is definitely my biggest advice, because I see Monica, right? I see the level of engagement and it's insane, right? I've said it before. I wouldn't do it. Mrs. A, you're pregnant. I'd be like, wow, Dad, but I really wouldn't. I'm not gonna lie. Like, bless her heart, because it's a lot of work.
She's awesome at it, too. Oh my gosh.
It's meeting deadlines, going to, I see her sometimes like up until 12 o'clock, and I'm like, why are you cooking right now? Oh, I have an outing tomorrow. And it's just like, okay. She's like,
it's my fault.
She's doing things. No, she's like that for like anything. Like yesterday, for this interview, like the whole house was like, I'm like, we showcasing the house on IKEA catalog. Like, you're like, what are you doing? Danelli was over there like cleaning handles. I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I gotta clean the handles. That I'm like, what is happening? So I know Monica, and although Monica can be a little bit to the extreme, you have to be pretty damn close, in my opinion. Like I was just saying earlier, we know where you have to say yes. Between, if I have a class connect or whatever they call them, between 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, you have to be there with your child, right? Sit your butt next to the child and make sure that they're doing what they're doing. Because otherwise, it's if you cannot do that, don't sign up, right? I mean, am I wrong? Am I,
No, it's
I know I got a little carried away here,
No,
but
well, at this age when they're little, yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I have some of my little ones are most of them are pretty they're doing really great on Zoom and on the computer, but mom still needs to be nearby every time, like at least nearby.
Right. To hear, at least, is your mom there? What?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a buddy of mine that, has asked me, the guy I was telling you about, that he's like every time I think he inches closer to doing it. But I think that I throw some stuff out there sometimes, or he gets kind of like, ooh, I don't know if I can do that. I'm like, there's sometimes you have to, go to outings or something. And he's like, do I have to? I'm like, well, you don't have to, buddy, right? I'll leave him anonymously, but I'm like, but it's healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Because homeschool doesn't mean, and that's what I think, by the way, a lot of people have that misconception that, homeschool, that means no social engagement. No, it doesn't. Right? No, it's not. Already, it's, if anything, it's homeschool to have more focus, more one-on-one, less distractions, hopefully. But also, nothing is to say no more engagement, no more going out. I tell him that, he's like, damn, like when? I'm like, well, they'll set him up, like, the random hours, sometimes like 11, sometimes like 11, 12, or I'm sorry, 12. I'm like, but yeah, you have to do things like that. Okay, wow. So, I don't know if I can do that, or if my wife can do that. I'm like, then, man, it's really, if you're not gonna be doing it, it's really getting her on the program. If this is gonna, what you're gonna do. Because he shares a lot of, and I don't know if you haven't taught brick and mortar here in San Diego, right?
No.
So he shares a lot of frustration, and he lives in a pretty, what you would consider upscale area here in San Diego. And, he shares a lot of frustrations with like teachers that are, let's just say not engaging with parents, right? Like, there was an open house. He was telling me, and he walked in, and the teacher was on her phone, like anybody gets on the phone, like, watching something or doing something. And she had on one side one headphone on, and the parents were walking around seeing the projects. Then my buddy approached her or something like that. And he's like, like, hi. And it's like, huh? Oh, hi.
Oh, geez.
It's like, who are you? Dad? Like,
open house.
Yeah. Wrong day. Are you so he gets really frustrated. He's very passionate about the education that his child receives, and and like any parent should be. And he I know sometimes he wonders, like, am I making the right choice? And it is definitely a choice, and it's definitely something you should contemplate heavily, right? But what would you tell my buddy if he listens to you?
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I don't know. I worry. I don't know. I mean, maybe it is a good option for them. It might be. I think if he's not happy, I don't know. See, I'd have to know what's going on with the child and how they're doing in school and all these different things, because there's a lot of great hardworking teachers in brick and mortar, just like, at any other school, and it serves some students really well and others maybe not. So it's hard to say, yeah, this is perfect for you. Come over here, come to this class, come to, I can't, it's hard.
So I know that he's shared with me, like, his wife is a little hesitant. I'm not sure exactly why, but what advice, and it's not just for him, right? For anybody listening and thinking about homeschool, you as an educator that has been on both sides now, you're very well versed, I would say, at this point, in everything from the curriculums to the way the structures are with the administrators, the schools, etc. Anybody that tells you something as simple as, before I go down the route of homeschool, Mrs. A, what should I contemplate? What would be one of the things that you as an educator, I already shared my opinion, but what would you say you would give them the advice if
they're considering homeschooling?
Mm-hmm.
Well, first I would want to find out, like, what is it that they feel that they're, like, why is what they're doing now not working? And what are they looking to find by being in a homeschool program or in a virtual school? That I would start from there.
Okay.
I personally think that it's the educator's job in this school to make this program customizable for each family. And just like at any school and any educational setting, that doesn't mean that it's happening in every classroom or with every family or with every teacher. Does that?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because in my mind, I think, okay, I can take all of the resources that we have and I can see, where the student is at, what the family needs, what their schedule might be like, and it's like, okay, let's do this so that it works for you, and I can help make it work.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
No,
Like I'm like,
sense.
yeah, let's do this. Like, okay, this isn't working for you. Okay, let's try this.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things about our school is that we can do that. So, I say if he's got someone guiding him like that, I think rock it.
I will give him your number.
For sure.
No, because I know, he's always thinking about it. He asked me enough questions about it, but, and I'm not one, despite of me being now a big believer of homeschool, I really don't try to push it on people. Like, I've had conversations even with Uber drivers, about, we somehow landed the topic of school or something. And, I've had an Uber driver probably no more than a month ago or so, tell me straight out that he was a school counselor, and where he worked at the school, cut his position basically because there were two counselors, now there's one, which that's a whole other topic. But I'm like, what? Full campus, by the way. And he's like, yeah, I was like one that was left out. I could apply, but right now I'm just gonna take it slow. I'm like, okay. So he's like, yeah, where your kids go to school? I'm like, oh, mine at home. He's like, what do you? Oh, wait. Oh, are your kids one of those kids that do school at home? I'm like, yeah, they're homeschooled. He's like, oh man, how's that working out? I'm like, great. He's like, why? He's like, you're free to do whatever you want, man. But let me tell you, as a counselor, you might be hurting your kids. I get that all the time. I'm sure you get something similar.
I get a lot of that too. It's like, oh, you teach kindergarten. It's like, oh, it's a virtual public school is what it is. And this independent study and, so you don't really teach. Oh no, I teach every day. I have customized lessons. I see them. They see me. Well, what do you mean? Like you record videos? No. Try Google sometime.
Yeah.
It's all technology.
Yeah.
Oh, but you don't see them? Yeah, and I see them every Friday. We do hands-on. We do all kinds. And it's
Are they like fake students?
Yeah, it's like, is this real? Like, is this? And some of the questions, it's almost like, no, how do you do that? And all of a sudden, they've got an opinion about, my class and my kids and how they're learning.
Yep. It's
it's
amazing.
like, okay. You don't know how I'm doing it, but all of a sudden you're an expert on how they're learning and whether they're being socialized or even if there's any, it's like, it doesn't work for everybody, but I don't know. I've seen some pretty exceptional things happen in our class, and it's not just because of me. I've got, it's a team with parents and, it's been pretty awesome.
If anything, I would argue, right? And again, not to make it about brick and mortar versus homeschool. I can already hear people telling me, wow, ours is better, yours is worse. But I will say this. If anything, homeschooling probably brings teachers and parents closer because of the natural environment.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
That's the one thing that was like, I was told that because when you first start, you go through tons of training and all, and one of the things I remember hearing was like, oh, you're going to be surprised at how close you get to your families. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Nah. I don't see them every day. Like how?
And look at you now.
Oh, now it's like, oh my gosh. Last year I was crying.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I'm not going to see you every week.
I was there.
And like, oh my God. And like, no, it's just, yeah.
Yeah.
It's totally different.
So yeah, if anything,
Yeah.
it brings naturally brings the teacher closer to the parent.
Totally, yeah.
Which I will say again, coming from a guy that went to public school, my mom was not as close to the teachers as like Monica is with her, with her educators, and I think that's where people like me fall through the gaps, because now I'm a different person, obviously, right? I'm more mature, like naturally, you should be at this age, and at that point, back then, I was like, "You did your homework?" Hey, why am I getting a call that saying that you didn't go to your last period? Oh, come on, mom, the machine's dumb. It wasn't me. Do you know how many Jonathan Torres Herreras are there? A lot. Okay, a lot. There's mom. Just hang up the phone, mom. Or the phone rings and my mom, ¿Quién es? I'm like, telemarketers. I think I said that so much throughout my life as a little kid. Telemarketers, mom. That's why I work in telemarketing, because it's just like ingrained in my head. But yeah, I mean, it was like no engagement. So when my mom went to school, it was like two strangers meeting, obviously, between my mom and the educator. It was like, oh, didn't we see you at the beginning of the year? Now it's like second semester, and like, how are you? And then for like the first 20 seconds, it becomes more about updating themselves, right? And then if my mom, which she always tends to do this, finds something in common with everybody, that's it. Now she's selling them Avon or Tupperware, and it's just like, okay, well, thank you. And it's just like, yes, I got away. Like, who was your kid again? Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And it was just like, you're done, right? And it happened a lot. So in this environment, it would be very hard, right, for a parent. I mean, I would say you would have to try not to be involved with the teacher, and to like miss some of those things, like, hey, your kid has behavior issues, or your kid's not showing up for class, right? I mean, I would think that if you have to tell a parent, yeah, your kid's not showing up for class, and they're like, what? You would be like, no, you're supposed to be there. You didn't know this. If you don't know this, we have a bigger problem. So yeah, I mean, it's nice. So I guess I would tell, and I told my buddy the same thing. I'm like, man, listen, man, that's one of the things that you'll get a lot is engagement, right? Because he's like, oh man, this teacher was like super dismissive. I'm like, oh, I mean, yeah, there's personalities maybe, but you definitely will get a lot more one-on-one.
Yeah,
with
she's probably just tired.
Yeah, he did tell me that she's
it's not personal. She's probably just dealing with so much crap.
Well, probably also working her 50 hours, maybe some plus more hours. It is crazy.
Yeah, I always don't take anything personal. She's dealing with stuff that you guys don't.
No idea.
You just know.
No idea. And on that topic, moving on to that now, on the teachers having to deal with things, what would you say to other teachers that may watch this at one point about if they're having maybe some thoughts about going from brick and mortar to virtual, right? Because we already gave parents our advice. We're done with you guys. Moving on, what would you tell educators that are like, hey, should I?
So if I were to be honest, I can tell you what the climate is right now with the teachers I work with and how it is right now. They're really overwhelmed. Yeah. They're really stressed. I should say there's a lot of administrative duties, a lot of non-teacher related duties that are placed on teachers at the moment that make it really, really difficult to. It's been really stressful. It's kind of the same stressors. For me, I had a rough beginning this year to where I considered not even staying. I'm just being honest. Wow. It got that bad to where I was like, what's happening? Like, what's happening to my school? Like, there's so many things. And I just took a step back and I just, I can't believe I just told you that.
Don't worry.
I can't believe I just told you that.
No, listen, things are difficult sometimes. Why?
There's a lot of things I did that now I'm just like, my focus is now number one, students and families. I take care of what they need, phone calls, emails, support, lessons.
Yeah.
And then all these other things the school wants me to do, it'll get done when I can.
So
that's it. And I shut off, at a decent time. And yeah, I do work overtime, like with Zoom and all these fun things. But what I did was I made a list of all my favorite things about my job. And that's my to-do list that I keep on my desk. And once I did that, I'm having a blast now. I'm I'm not going anywhere.
No, you have to self-motivate.
Yeah.
You have to self-motivate.
Yeah, sometimes you do, especially when you work alone and all you have is Skype Skype with your coworkers. It can get hard sometimes.
It is.
But we had a rough start. There's a lot of things being implemented that were just like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So
would you, I guess, for now, would you tell that teacher, hold on, stay where you're at, or no, you know what, sign up. Here's a website.
I wouldn't tell them what to do, but I would offer support.
Gotcha.
I would say, this is what I'm doing, and this is what works for me, and this is how I think this will help you. So I can't tell somebody, yeah, you got to stay, or hey, no, don't go. But I'll say, okay, what is it you're struggling with? And let me give you some tricks, because I have a lot of tricks.
Fair enough. No, it's fair enough. All right, so let's see here. I was looking through my questions here that I asked you earlier, and we pretty much covered everything, but we'll leave everybody with this. Give us your final thoughts on where we are now, obviously, and if you were somehow magically orchestrating the next 5 years of virtual homeschooling, not just in this program, but just the concept of virtual homeschooling. If you could magically orchestrate it, how and what direction? What do you think we should implement, bring, eliminate? Give us a quick overview of what the next 5 years may look like. Or you know what? Screw it. The next year looks like.
Okay. So maybe somehow do something to make it easier for parents coming into it for the first time. I don't know, make something to help make it easier. I don't know, because that's the one thing I'm noticing is it's really rough when you're new as a parent. Anything that would help make it easier.
Okay. To sign up.
I have some ideas personally in our program that would really help, but again, that's a whole other topic.
So make it easier for parents to sign up and to use, or just a sign up process.
No, not just to sign up, but to, I guess, implement with their kids, so that it's not so scary and it's not so clunky in the beginning, but maybe making it simpler, not just hand over a curriculum and expect them to just kind of be able to navigate through it super easily.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough. Well, Demily, do you have any questions for Mrs. A?
I have one.
Okay.
Would you ever consider teaching any other grades? Maybe not middle school or high school, but first grade or third grade or fourth grade?
I've thought about doing writing, like teaching an upper grade writing. That's the only thing I've considered. But I love kindergarten too much. I don't think I could take that leap.
Wow.
At least not yet.
No, I think you were in many ways meant to be a kindergarten teacher.
And I was always afraid of it too. And now that I'm in it, I just, oh my God, no, I love it.
And this is the grade that you're the happiest in, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, the kids are so awesome. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, awesome. Mrs. A, do you have any other final words for whoever may be listening to us? Any audience? Anything you want to say?
Oh my God. I don't know. No, I can't think of anything. But I don't know, if you have an issue or a problem with anything, whether it's in homeschooling or I just want to encourage parents that if you're dealing with something, there's an answer to your problem. Just because you don't know what it is or you can't find the resource, it doesn't mean it's not there. So that's the mentality I try to bring. it's like, oh, you're struggling with something, or you're not learning, or you're upset, like there's an answer for it. It's okay. Like, you don't know today, but we'll figure it out and it'll be okay.
Encouraging and wise words from a wise person. All right, guys. So that is it for today. Thanks for listening, whoever stuck around throughout the whole time. Hopefully we can get Mrs. A to come back again and give us a little bit more as things change and the industry changes. And, you know, we have new things that come out for the homeschool virtual stuff. You know, it's a great way for people to learn, especially if they keep coming back here and listening to like teachers like Mrs. A and maybe parents in the future. One thing that I said before, and I'll say it again, I'll invite anybody that's even all the way to the top in administration. You know, if you guys have a different point of view from anything that you'll hear today, or I'm sorry, you heard today, or you'll hear in the future, you know, I'm not very hard to find. Leave a comment down below or let us know. But definitely keep watching if this is of interest to you. Leave us comments down below of anything that we might have missed, anything that you guys might want to ask Mrs. A, any parents that maybe are thinking about homeschooling or leaving homeschool, anything like that. Let us know down below. Demi, I'm gonna have you practice our Twitter. What's our Twitter? Because it always gets you. What is it? We are
THN.
THN. I teased Emily, by the way, guys, because she always wants to say .com. But yeah, follow us on Twitter on We Are THN. That is it for today. Thank you for listening. See ya. That was great.
Oh my God.
That was really good.
That was scary.
Look at him. There he is.